Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now, this video is one of those videos that fits perfectly with the channel's slogan, exposing the hypocrisy of the left. Because this story is exactly that. It's pure, unadulterated hypocrisy. Disgraced now former president Joe Biden, oh how great that is to say, a couple hours before the transition, issued a slew of blanket pardons targeting basically the whole corrupt deep state roster. From Anthony Fauci to Mark Milley to those involved in the January 6th committee, and of course even the Biden crime family, basically everybody but Michael Cohen.
Regarding the pardon, yeah, I put in the application for a presidential pardon because I believe that Joe Biden has the same responsibility to me that he had to his own son. I'm somebody's son also, by the way.
Despite him begging to be pardoned and almost weirdly begging to be adopted as Joe Biden's new son. But jokes aside, this was arguably one of the most unethical and corrupt, self-serving actions a president has ever engaged in, and the hypocrisy on this issue runs incredibly deep. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got a lot of stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so exactly like I said, absolute peak hypocrisy. After months of being told that this would never happen, that Joe Biden would never do something like this, or the precedent that Democrats set back in 2020, of course in reference to potential Donald Trump pardons, the suggestion at the time was that these sorts of political presidential pardons are basically akin to admissions of guilt.
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime?
But no, it's the president's own family. It's people that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family.
Is there an innocent explanation for someone to seek preemptive pardons for family members? Would you do that if you knew you were innocent and just worried about outside forces?
The answer to that is going to be no. If you haven't done anything wrong, you sit there and go, what do you need a preemptive pardon for?
If he pardons people preemptively, he's essentially telling the public that these people have committed crimes. And we may not be aware of what they are, but the pardon is clear evidence that crimes have been committed.
I imagine if he decides to issue these preemptive pardons, it will be cast in a way that he is protecting his family and protecting their reputations from, villainous exterior forces that are against him.
First off, we should just take a deep breath and acknowledge the audacity of a president who's so clearly concerned about his own criminal culpability and that of his family members that pardons are a major obsession with him.
The idea of a kind of prospective pardon, this sort of permanent federal get-out-of-jail-free card. That seems to be what we're talking about in the case of this, right, with Giuliani and his 3 eldest children who, as far as we know, have not been convicted of a crime. Maybe they've committed a lot, and they don't want to face action. I don't know. It's weird. I wouldn't ask for a pardon. I don't think I deserve one because I don't think I've done anything criminal. But where does that come from? That concept that you can just kind of wave your magic pardon wand.
After months of telling us that this would never happen, he would never do it because he's not corrupt like Donald Trump is, not only does he do it, but he takes it to a whole other level, basically pardoning all his friends and family with blanket, sweeping, preemptive pardons. It's complete insanity, and here's Biden's excuse for it all. He's claiming that these pardons are to protect people from Donald Trump's revenge. Give me a break. Quote, my family has been subjected to unrelenting attacks and threats motivated solely by a desire to hurt me, the worst kind of partisan politics. Unfortunately, I have no reason to believe that these attacks will end, Biden said. Yeah, Joe, sure, people are motivated solely to get at you for no reason, right? It definitely has nothing to do with your corruption involving Burisma and Chinese business dealings. Definitely has nothing to do with you being labeled the big guy, not only by Tony Bobulinski, but by former IRS agents as well.
We knew that the laptop was real. DOJ knew that the laptop was real.
FBI knew the laptop was real.
There were a lot of overt investigative steps that we were not allowed to take because we had an upcoming election.
When we were doing the interviews, the prosecutors specifically told us that they didn't want to ask about the big guy because they knew it was Joe Biden.
You came forward as whistleblowers your information was accurate.
He's basically making the claim that there's no merit to anything that he or his family has faced or any of the other individuals that he targeted for pardons. Does anybody really believe that? I mean, take Mark Milley, for instance. There were literal reports about Mark Milley working behind Trump's back with the Chinese military. Here's a report from 2021. Mark Milley admits that he would tell Chinese general if the U.S. launched an attack.
Did you or did you not tell him that if we were going to attack, you would let him know?
As part of that conversation, I said, General Lee, there's not going to be a war, there's not going to be an attack between great powers. And if there was, the tensions would build up. There'd be calls going back and forth from all kinds of senior officials. I said, hell, General Lee, I'll probably give you a call, but we're not going to attack you.
You articulating that you would tell him, you would give him a call, I think is worthy of your resignation. I just think that's against our country, that you would give our number one adversary that information and tell him that.
I mean, that could be argued as possibly being straight up treason. Then, of course, we've got Fauci lying to Congress. I mean, the list goes on. There's actual merit here. There's things that need to be looked into, stories that need to be got to the bottom of. But Joe Biden's essentially saying, nope, he's shutting it all down and blocking the next administration from even being able to look into it. That's insane, and there's no justifying that. And the justification that Joe Biden's using is utterly ridiculous. He's protecting people from Trump's revenge? Trump's revenge, really? I mean, let's be real here. The only people who have been out for revenge are the left. Remember the endless lawsuits, the media hit pieces, the endless investigations and smear campaigns into not only Donald Trump, but his entire orbit, his family, his lawyers, his business partners, his cabinet members, and now they're the ones acting like Trump's the one who's vindictive? Yeah, that's not the way this works. And obviously, if you didn't want the Trump administration to look into your behavior, well then maybe you guys shouldn't have spent the last 8 years throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him. Here's the bottom line. Every single person that Joe Biden pardoned probably deserves to be investigated. And essentially the message that I'm getting from Joe Biden's pardons is that Democrats believe that they and their allies should be above investigation, that they can act in whatever manner they want, they can weaponize government, they can enrich themselves to the tune of millions upon millions of dollars, peddling their influence abroad, and never be held accountable. They should be immune from investigation. That's what this is. That's what a preemptive pardon is, and that's really what's so scary. That's the scary precedent that's been set through this hypocritical action that Joe Biden has taken. It's a preemptive pardon to shield these people from investigation. Joe Biden's not pardoning somebody who was found guilty of a crime, who was then sentenced and he's essentially commuting their sentence. No, Joe Biden's pardoning people to shield them, saying, yeah, well, we got skeletons in our closet, but it is what it is. We should be allowed to just get away with it. There's no crime that we could ever commit that's worthy of an investigation. And that right there is deeply concerning and probably, as I stated in the intro, probably one of the most blatant acts of corruption that I've ever seen a politician engage in. It's so blatant and in your face. And of course, to stick on the hypocrisy element, this is coming from the same people who kept going on and on about how no one is above the law. These are the same people who were outraged when the Supreme Court suggested that Donald Trump might benefit from some sort of presidential immunity. How could he possibly have presidential immunity, they said?
On Trump's absolute immunity case. He wants absolute immunity. Yes, it gives me a headache. Keeps me up at night.
The easy thing to do is say, are you crazy? No.
Right.
There was a perfectly good lower court ruling that said nobody is immune from the law in America.
Well-written one.
That's how you spell America. That's who we are. That's what we are as a country. He, through political force, has already effectively got, and through the Supreme Court delaying this so long, he's already effectively got immunity.
No one is above the law. We heard that a million freaking times, that no one was above the law, but apparently Democrats are above the law. Democrats are above investigations. They don't even deserve to be investigated for their actions. No, we should just issue blind trust and faith that they're operating in their positions of power totally, genuinely, and legally. It's absurd. It's a totally absurd premise that in my view simply cannot be accepted. To be honest with you, this should probably be an issue that's headed towards the Supreme Court. We ought to ask ourselves the question whether a blanket preemptive pardon that dates back to 2014 is ever justified. The freaking double standard here. Donald Trump, of course, deserves to be investigated to hell and back. He even deserves to have old cases resurrected, a federal nothing burger case like the hush money case to be resurrected in a court in Manhattan. You know, that's justified because no one's above the law, not even a president. We need to get to the bottom of this. But Democrats engaging in crimes, yeah, you can't even look into it. Absolutely disgusting, indefensible behavior, but pretty much par for the course. Exactly what we'd expect from the elite Democrat class. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.